Good morning. Good morning. It's pretty late in the morning. It's 9:40. Late. I got pretty mad a while ago. I think the title of this is going to be Angry Old Man or Bitter Old Man, something like that. I was gonna go fishing this morning, and then late last night when I went to bed, I saw that there were flood watches starting at 10 a.m. here where I live. I thought, I probably shouldn't go out there and do that. So I just ruined my whole day. And then while I was sitting there this morning in the house, it looked like it was just blue skies. But now that I've gotten out here, there's a bunch of clouds and stuff. Anyway, I'm going to go walk at the park. Bitter old man. That's kind of a stereotype, isn't it? Like an angry old man or a bitter old man. Like those guys on the Muppets that set up in the balcony, were kind of bitter old men. But and the Swedish Chef, he wasn't being. We used to just laugh. That was so funny to us. But anyway, bitter old man. I'm gonna tell you what. In my opinion, young people are much more angry than I was. Much more of an angry person than I was, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Hot-headed, impetuous. That when I was younger, and I guess that's just all testosterone. When I was younger, I'd get mad. I'd just get mad. Just whatever. Drop of a hat. I'm all. And it's like, it's not just getting mad. It's like, righteous indignation. I can't believe, it's right. And I just don't feel like that anymore. I don't get wound up. Now I get mad, but I get mad over, it's more like I get irritated, and then I don't act out on it or whatever. So it's more of a mild irritation. So maybe the stereotype should be mildly irritated old man instead of bitter old man or angry old man. Now, I'm not saying there's not any angry old men. Obviously there are. But now, let's not leave out the old women. The bitter old women. Y'all know I had to go. Chris, you might need to slow down, because you're about to say some things on video that may not need to be said, and yet I'm mildly irritated enough to just say them. But a lot of older women are more than mildly irritated, and I think they're more bitter. Obviously they're more bitter. And if you don't doubt that, or if you do doubt that, just go on a Facebook cooking page, and you're going to see some mean old women now. I mean, they're just mean, and it's over nothing. It's usually over nothing that even matters. So, I had a friend of mine years ago. He was a head football coach, and we were talking about something that had happened. He goes, I don't deal with that. And it was something that he needed to deal with every day. He's like, I'll just let the assistants do that. And I'm like, you don't do that? He goes, no. He goes, listen. He said, that kind of makes me mad. He goes, that irritates me. He said, so what I have learned is if I have something that irritates me, I don't deal with it. He goes, I avoid it. And that way I don't get mad. And I was like, that's pretty smart. Now some things you can't avoid. Like if you can't stand your spouse, it's hard to avoid them because they're in your house with you, and you gotta. But y'all know there are ways to do it. Some of you bitter old women, I know what you do. I've seen your tricks. I've seen what happens. There's a reason that a lot of old people do the things they do with their spouses. Like one has one half of the house and one has the other half of the house, or one has an entirely different house, and whatever. There's a reason why there's man caves. There's a reason why there's woman caves and all that stuff. But you know what? Is that really being bitter, or is that just everybody needs time alone? Well, do you need time alone? I don't know. Maybe you need a time out. Maybe it's more of a time out. It's one thing if you choose to go to your man cave, which I don't have a man cave. My whole house is my man cave. I'm in charge of my house. But anyway, if you have a man cave and your wife tells you to go to the man cave, I guess that's kind of like a timeout. That's like telling the kid to go to their room. But it's not a punishment. Because like now, if you tell a kid to go to their room, they got their phone and everything in their room, they love to go to their room. I'll stay in my room all day long. So I guess that's kind of the purpose of a man cave. Is if you get in trouble and you get shipped out to the man cave, you should have enough stuff out there to keep you occupied. Maybe it's why all these old men in the past would have all these shops out, and you'd go out there and they'd have all these tools, and they'd have like woodworking tools, and they had all these projects and all this stuff. I believe the word for it is, let's see, what is the word for it? They're kind of out there kind of puttering around, or kind of, they'd have some kind of name that they'd call it, where they're out there messing around with their stuff and doing whatever. And you would go out there or into their room or whatever it was where they had all their stuff, and you would be like, why are they doing all this? Why are they spending all this time? Like my papa, he had a room. He had several spaces that were his spaces. He would have these spaces, and you go in there, and he had like 50 CB radios and like other types of radios and stereos and stuff. And he's always, working on these radios. He's going to fix these radios or get this radio, And I never recall him fixing a single radio, let alone 50 or 100 radios, which is what he had. It was never, I never saw any accomplishment of actually really fixing anything. Now, there would be parts scattered around and little tools in places and, lights and, these bright lights shining down on it and magnifying glasses and, them little he'd have all this crap. But I never ever recall him going, hey, I've just fixed this radio. I don't think he ever fixed anything. I think he just sat out there and listened to his 8 tracks and he just puttered around. He didn't do anything. And then he had another space where he had other stuff, books and stuff. So I guess when you go to where all these old men live, and you go into these spaces like they're outbuilding or whatever, and they got all this stuff, and you think to yourself, man, this guy was really a craftsman. He's out here building furniture and stuff, man. He must really, he's probably not doing anything. He's probably just, number one, collecting tools, because men love to collect tools. Even men that are not able to use the tools love to have a collection of tools. So he's probably just collecting tools for no good reason, thinking about fixing something, or just messing around with something. Like, there's times, and I'm guilty of it too, I'll get this idea in my head, I'm going to fix something. And like me and Paul the other day, we were going to fix my chainsaw. And so I called in my professional fixer, my real fixer, which is Paul, because I really did want to fix the chainsaw. And so Paul got in there, and there was like this spring in this piece that we were trying to, add something else in there to it. And, so Paul, he's he's doing all this stuff, and I'm giving him my opinion, because I don't know how to fix anything, but I felt like I should be involved because it was my chainsaw. And so he's messing around in there, and he's doing this, and he touched that. It wasn't a spring, it was a coil. It was this coiled up metal strip, and he accidentally touched that coil, just barely touched it. And when he touched that coil, we discovered there was nothing holding that coil in place, and it just sprang out and uncoiled. So it just went. And Paul couldn't get that thing back in. And we sat out there and messed around with that coil and tried to think of all these ways to coil that coil back up. And we were like nailing nails in the boards and trying to stick the coil and hold it, and you hold this part and I'll hold that part. We spent 2 hours messing around with that stupid coil, and we never got it. We finally gave up. But I believe that in the past, men were probably out there trying to coil these coils back together. They were probably whittling on stuff, trying to make a rabbit or something, and they would whittle for hours and hours and hours. Whittle so much that it would be gone, and then it'd have to start again. They were probably sawing stuff, nailing some things into other things, and trying to and then realizing they didn't have the right kind of nails, so they went to the hardware store and then they got some different nails. So they would have all these different collections of nails and screws, and then they would have to have places where they would keep all the nails and the extra nails and screws from other projects they had done, and they'd have a box, and they'd have all different kinds of screws in this box. And then some of them, if they were really good at puttering, would take all the screws that were in that box, and then they would get like all these little bitty boxes, like a sewing kit kind of a thing, with all their little, and then they would sort out the screws into, you get where I'm going. They would find something to do, and we look back at it now, we're like, well, it's because they didn't have TV, and it's because, no, there's people out there doing that right now. They got all the internet, they got social media, and they're still in their man cave sorting out screws. So I don't know what that has to do. No wonder they're bitter old men. They're having to sit out in the 60 or 70% humidity right now, and I'm having to sit out in this barn and sort out screws in the dark, and then I got to fix my CB radios later. No wonder they're so bitter. They got hard jobs. Hard jobs. I don't know what the women do in there. Well, I got a pretty good idea of what they do. It's not a whole lot different than sorting out the screws in the. Wow, how did we end up there? I don't know, guys. I don't know how I come up with some things I do. But I'm almost to the park. I'm going to walk. I'm going to get out some of this bitterness, and I want to get myself to the point where I'm so tired that I don't have any kind of desire to go into any kind of man cave or any kind of place where I'm messing around. Let's just go get out all my energy at the park. It's like taking your toddler out and running them around in the yard, and wearing them out so they don't drive you crazy all day. So I'm going to go wear myself out so I don't drive Tammy crazy all day, because she's in her woman cave doing work on the computer, which is her screw cabinet that she's fixing. So anyway, there's a day in the life of a bitter old man. Angry, bitter, anxious. I need some Nervine. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Nervine? Anyway, thanks for watching Nichols Retirement Empire.